Hey guys, before we start today's episode, I want to give a big shout out and dedicate this episode to a Patreon supporter of ours, Madison N. Thank you very much, Madison, for helping us out. We really appreciate it. Guys, enjoy the review.
Welcome to another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the ultimate in Final Fantasy podcasts. I am your host, Caleb.
I am Joe.
And today we are Final
Fantasy fucking.
Yeah, reviewing Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube. This, of course, is an action role-playing game developed by the Game Designer Studio and published for the GameCube by Nintendo in 2003 in Japan and in 2004 in North America, Europe, and Australia. So I learned about this today. The Game Designer Studio, I guess, is a shell company that Square set up after the huge financial issues caused by the Spirits Within. So it was like a way for them to, like, I don't know, have something to fall back on, I guess.
Okay.
And they set that up, and they had these guys design the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicle game. Kind of an odd situation, but I guess it would be kind of odd after they depleted every dollar that they had and destroyed their company with a movie.
So did Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles help to stave off the end?
I mean, I suppose the sales were relatively decent. I mean, on its debut, it sold over 179,000 units. So, I mean, it was second place in Japan, so it wasn't like a huge deal. And, of course, as of October 2017, the game has shipped over... October 2007, sorry. I don't think they're tracking it anymore. Has shipped
Probably
over 1.3 million copies worldwide. So, it's done better than some of the Final Fantasy Tactics spin-offs, for sure. I mean, I think Advance was about... Was it like 1.5 million, a couple million, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of around the same area as Final Fantasy Tactics Advance as far as its sales go. So I'm sure it helped. But yeah, I guess the company was later acquired by another company, so like they just kind of like shoot it off after they fix their financial woes. But it is kind of an interesting setup that they just created like a subsidiary to just like, okay, we're going to create this game and it's going to be on Nintendo. And this is the first Final Fantasy on a Nintendo console since Final Fantasy VI right here. So
yes, it was. So Final Fantasy VI was 90... What was it, like 94 or something like that?
Yeah, 90. Yeah, it was like 94, 90.
So it was basically about a decade.
Yeah, well, they had their huge falling out because they went with the PlayStation instead for the cost of discs.
The best reasons ever,
for the only reasons. And it's kind of the only... it was sort of the only way forward for Square because they're trying to move forward into the new age, and Nintendo was kind of
so they picked the GameCube.
Yeah. So they picked the GameCube, which is, of course, as we know, the best piece of hardware out of that generation, technically.
Technically, yes. It had the fastest processing power and the best video card and everything like that. However, its sales were not as good as either the PS2 or the brand new on the scene Xbox. So,
yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure about this one. I mean, I'll fucking check. I will fucking check in between segments on this just so that I don't have to do the no, dude, that's not right.
Yeah. So also, we all know that there are multiple Crystal Chronicle games. We have, 6 total, and they're all released on Nintendo consoles. This is kind of like the coming back and the merging with Nintendo once again, and they made this exclusive Crystal Chronicle series for their consoles and their handheld as well. Because the next one, I think, is...
I am correct, by the way.
Oh, okay. The next one is, of course, the one on the fucking...
DS.
DS, yeah, DS. I keep
you okay?
3DS. No,
you okay?
No.
This game destroyed you today?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it, but I have to. So,
we are coming to you late on this game. So we were already a little bit behind. We were like 2 weeks behind on our 17-game schedule, and now we are 5 weeks behind.
Did you check?
I did.
Okay.
We were supposed to have beaten this game like May 10th. We
Oh,
are
wow.
now, or not May 10th, June 10th.
I was going to say, that's way more than 5.
We are now 5 weeks behind. So this is, as you guys know, we had trouble the last couple of weeks. First time, the game turned out to be a little longer than we thought. And we couldn't get together one of the weeks. I remember that.
Yeah, last week.
And then I thought it was the week before last week. Oh, no, it was last week. And then we couldn't... then when we tried to hurry the game up and try to get it done and do the episode like we're doing now, we're doing this on Monday.
Yep.
This will come out immediately after we're done with the review. So that'll be it'll be fresh, guys. It'll be like, wow, it was there.
The freshest
the
of
freshest
salad
of
meats.
reviews.
Yeah.
The fresh, yeah. I love your Nude Klein references on UFF.
Yeah, it's good.
But it was because the final boss was really hard, and we had to grind more.
We did, yeah. We had to grind a lot more, actually.
Yeah,
and most of it didn't actually come to anything,
2
which
days
is
worth
great.
of grinding,
Mhm.
and I believe our final time for the game was like 21 hours. I
Probably
think.
somewhere around there, yeah.
And how long to beat? Put it at 19 hours, and I call it a lie. It's a downright goddamn lie.
Yeah, I don't buy it either. But
yeah, we are finished. We already kind of went over the development.
yeah,
So-
game was directed by Kazuhiko Aoki, and not
He's-
really much.
He's disappeared,
He's pretty much dead.
according
this
to the
game.
Final Fantasy wiki.
This game ruined his career, apparently. And Kumi Tanioka was the composer for the game, so we have her to thank.
Yeah, we'll talk about her in a little bit.
She did the music for all of the Crystal Chronicle games and a couple other games along the way. Some Final Fantasy XI tracks, weird Code Age games, some Chocobo Dungeons. So she's kind of like one of the third-tier sort of musicians that they have in their back pocket for these
Third
side
tier,
games.
3 notes.
Yeah, third tier, 3 notes. Big 3 is an important number for her. But yeah, so
Ding, ding, ding.
not too well known. I don't think I've played any of these other games other than 11, of course. But I don't know what she would have done in 11. I guess we could have looked it up, but I don't care enough
Nope.
because most of that was Naboo and the other guy,
Anyway,
Mizuta.
let's get into some story.
Yeah. All right, so Crystal Chronicles, interestingly enough, takes place in a world that doesn't really have a name, which is kind of odd because Final Fantasy is all about having the names of the worlds. You've
Some
got
of them
Spira, you've got... Yeah, but a lot of them are just Earth if you don't have that. It's just
Yeah,
Earth.
I think FF8 doesn't have a name.
I guess,
And
yeah,
the first Final Fantasy, I don't think, has a name either.
I guess that's true. So it is kind of hit and miss, I suppose.
Yeah.
So we take control of a caravan hailing from the village of Tippa, where, of course, the world's 4 races come together to help in its mission. 1,000 years before the game's events.
What?
Naturally. The world's sustaining great crystal was shattered by a meteorite carrying an alien life form called the meteor parasite. So it basically generates a poisonous cloud called miasma, and it kills...
A million puns. A million of the same pun being used in a million different ways.
That's true, yeah. Miasma.
I can't go through there because of my asthma.
Yeah.
My asthma is acting up.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome.
We need to kill the plants to help miasma. Very, very solid, and it is endless. It is endless. So fragments of the Great Crystal ward off the miasma from the surviving settlements, but they do require myrrh, or sap from the trees, the tears of the plants, which is an energy that you harvest from magical trees using these weird vessels that are like super heavy, almost like the sphere, the like water sphere things in 10 is kind of what they look like to me, where it's just like a little orb and you fill it up with the mirror and then you bring it back to your village and your village gets to live for another year.
See a little
basically.
Titus in there playing some blitzball.
Yeah, a little mini blitzball going on. It's great. It's good. So the caravanners basically go on missions all around this world that is unnamed. You have the mirror replenishes every 2 years on the map. So you can go into an area and you take the mirror, and it takes 2 years for it to replenish and allow you to come back to that area. So it kind of forces you to explore. You take on sort of this, like, I guess, explorer role / pioneer role, it feels like, in the game.
Yeah.
So eventually you over time you start to learn about, you start to like figure like, okay, something's fucking with this, like there's something going on that's causing the miasma, and through your adventures you eventually learn about the meteor parasite and that you can in fact destroy the meteor parasite. When you go to fight the meteor parasite, and it's a giant pain in the ass, by the way, it took us a long time to beat. He hits pretty hard, and his little extra arms hit pretty hard too, so it was rough. I know we're blowing through this as if it took no time at all, but really it's just there's not really much in the story. In the story realm. But once you fight the meteor parasite, before you can kill it, you're transported to some weird, fucked up final map that is impossible to see anything, because you're like on a cloud that's on like right above a field. So it's like this weird, like you're like in a glass orb, with clouds as one is, and the orb is on top of a field. So you've got this gap between you and the field, and it makes it so that you just can't see anything.
The depth perception is impossible.
It's really hard. Like we both were just
casting lives around that aren't capturing anything.
No,
trying to run to where the circle is, and one of us is fucking up.
Yeah, getting completely bamboozled every time, no matter who was the one countering it. So yeah, we had that fun. But then we find Mio, which is a character that is just barely mentioned because we didn't do any of the side quests in the game, which I suppose probably explains some extra story aspect. And then of course the evil version of Mio, which is Rame, who are beings that were born following the destruction of the Great Crystal. So Rame attacks us and merges with Mio to increase the power before we finally destroy it. Mio and Rame separate, and they fade away, and we are sent back to Mount Valange to destroy the wounded meteor parasite in one hit, of course. We then free the world from the miasma, allowing all of the tribes to begin rebuilding civilization, and we get to go home. So it has a happy ending, at the very least. The last Final Fantasy we played does not have a happy ending. Everyone dies. But this one...
Spoilers.
This one has a good ending. We live, we make it back. We one-shot that piece of shit parasite, which was lovely, by the way. The thing was not getting one-shot before that. And we kind of go back. So the story is really simple, and it's extremely light in the game. You don't really get a whole lot. You just get like the gist of what's happening. You get, okay, there's this miasma stuff that's painful to touch, and you can't go in it without having this chalice that has the mirror in it, the mirror, which you gather from trees and you bring back to your village to stave off the miasma to keep your village alive from dying. So it's very bare bones. And then at the end, suddenly there are these legendary beings that exist, and they're like the classic story of like good and evil fighting each other, and like they need each other, and like it's like, they're kind of yin and yang, and then you kill the yang, and the yin kind of dies-ish too. And the part that really bugged me at the very end of the game, though, was they're like the one good version of the bad guy, like the Mio, was like, she was like, don't worry, we'll come back in time. And I was like, I wasn't worried at all about now I'm worried, because you're going to come back, and then that guy's going to come back, and then you're going to try to get another like meteorite slamming into the ground.
It's like there's 6 games in this series.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a long series.
Keep going.
Gonna keep on going. Yeah, the tower defense ones I can't imagine have that much to do with
My Life as a King and My Life as a Dark Lord.
Yeah, I can't imagine it. But you know what? I looked at the fucking like time frame, and I don't know if this is how it's always been. No, I guess it is. Yeah, never mind. I see the release dates on the side, so it has the series as a whole, and it has them in order. But I guess it's chronologically in order on release. I just didn't realize that My Life as a King and My Life as a Dark Lord were that close to us. I thought they were going to be the last ones, because they're like the fading glimpse of like the final thought of maybe we should make another one of these. Maybe we should do another one that's the same.
No, they're right in the middle.
Yeah, they're smack dab in the center of this Crystal Chronicles playthrough. So I guess I guess
There's prequels. So, like, Ring of Fates is a prequel to this game. I don't know what it's prequeling, though.
Yeah, it's all supposed to take place.
It's not like we had this, like, super in-depth, crazy story, but...
I guess it's going to take place over a course of, like, 2,000 years. So we'll probably figure out exactly why it takes place before or whatever. Maybe we'll learn more about the entities that appeared at the end of the game, Final Fantasy IV style.
This is what I appreciate about the story. So the story is, as you're right, it's totally bare bones. It's just a little adventure thing that you need in order to play kind of a throwaway GameCube title game. And I appreciated the clarity of the story mostly because I played Type 0 right beforehand.
Yeah.
Which was the opposite, where they made it cryptic and complex and crazy, and we're not able to simplify it in any way whatsoever. So
yeah.
I was okay with this. It was fine.
Yeah, it's pretty bare bones, but
it's
I mean,
fine for what it is.
It is sort of more about the adventure, and it's more about teaming up with your pals, which is probably the only way to play this game, I would say. I don't think single player would be very fun at all.
No.
But it's enjoyable, but that's kind of what the focus is, really.
Did you talk about how we got a cutscene every once in a while when we're just walking along?
Yeah, so one of the frustrating things in the game, especially when you're trying to hurry along, you run into a lot of other caravanners along the way, and they'll like have little discussion pieces for you, and they'll talk about like their quest and then their mission to keep their area alive, and they'll like wish you luck. And then sometimes you have the option to help out characters financially. There's a guy named Gertie who's kind of like a swindler who rips you off and like is trying to sell like, I don't know, like bullshit products to people. And he was kind of fun, I guess. I mean, it was just honestly near the end though, it became a chore because we ended up running into the same scenes over and over again.
Yes.
And it was no longer really fun. It was just something I wanted to kind of burn through. So it's like, I don't know. That part was... Those were always like
they'd repeat,
sort of throwaway.
And
yeah,
it was obnoxious.
And it didn't really add. It didn't really add much to the world necessarily. It just kind of told us what we already knew, which is there are multiple villages trying to stay alive in this world, and the way they stay alive is by traveling around in caravans and collecting myrrh.
Yeah. And there's a subplot with the Dark Knight dude.
Yeah,
somewhere along the way.
Yeah, there's some Dark Knight guy who can see like the dead. It's weird. I don't know. We didn't do anything extra in the game. No. Unfortunately, I guess. Because
I played it.
Yeah. We both played it on the same thing, so we can't do that.
Yes.
But, I don't know. It was kind of... It was kind of bare bones, but it's understandable given the focus on gameplay, I would say.
Yeah.
But story's fine.
Gameplay, let's go. Okay, so the gameplay of this game, it's got some Final Fantasy elements in there. You can cast a spell and you can attack, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's about it. Schweiss.
Yeah,
kind of an overhead view. You run around. You solve some very basic puzzles where you're just basically hitting the attack button. You can pick up items, of course, on the way, and we'll get into that in a second. But as far as combat is concerned, you got guys just kind of running around in an action role-playing, button-mashing sort of way. You just kind of whack them, and there's a little bit of a timing thing involved, so you can get some relatively good combos. That doesn't really change up very often. And then if you hold down your weapon, or if you hold down the other button to cast a spell that is in your inventory, then you can do a different type of damage. But that's pretty much all there is to the combat. There's no block function. There's a defend function, which we don't even use.
It's tough though because the defend function, it's very action RPG where you scroll between your equipped abilities with the L and R buttons on the Game Boy Advance, which by the way you connect through this horrible system of wires and like old Russian-ish tech where you're just like connecting all these random things, and it's still kind of cool, but it's ancient at the same time. And we connect our Game Boys, and the Game Boy is used as our controller, which is unfortunate because it's very uncomfortable and tiny. And it's also used as our inventory management system, which is also very unfortunate.
Yes.
Because it's tiny.
Yes.
And yours is impossible to read.
Yes, it is.
You've got the Advance.
There's no light. Yeah.
So, we use that for the gameplay. The problem is, though, is you scroll with L and R to choose different moves, and the
you
sucky
only have
part,
one move.
Yeah, you only have one move at a time.
So you can do a defense move, but it's not like
just,
you can.
Yeah, it's not like you can press B to block while you're in the middle of an attack. Like, you can't switch. You have to physically switch which thing you're now selecting and using with A. There are some cool gameplay elements. There are certain spells that you can use by combining two different spells. So, like, if I do Life and Joe does any sort of black magic spell, we will cast Holy on them. If I do Cure and Joe does any sort of black magic, we'll do Gravity, which allows us to bring certain enemies down to the ground so we can do more damage to them. Holy will reveal ghost type enemies and we can start laying waste to them. There's a lot of cool little things like that in the game, but there's not really that much variety with those. I mean, we only have those two things for the most part. And then, of course, you can do like a higher level version of a spell like Curaga if you do 2 cures and launch them at the same time.
Yeah. You can eat food if you want to gain health as opposed to cure, but really most of the game, with some notable exception, most of the game you go into each of these areas, and each area has a little bit of a maze and maybe a little bit of a puzzle system worked out to get to the boss of that area. Then you kill the boss, and then you can get your stat upgrades and everything like that. But everything's kind of item based, including your spells.
Yeah.
So you'll go through killing guys, and then you just have to wait until one of them drops a cure. Otherwise, you just have to use food in order to cure yourself.
Yeah, so you're able to take items like food and Phoenix Downs level to level, but the spells you have to pick up each time you go into a level.
Yes.
Either that, or you can go find
they drop down like big soccer balls.
Yeah,
pick
yeah.
them up.
It's either that, or you go find the ring that allows you to cast it anytime you want.
I got the Blizzard ring at one point,
which was really helpful, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it's because we always had a black magic spell, so if we needed to use Holy, we almost always could because we're gonna find life somewhere in the map. Right. But so it's got a lot of little stuff like that, and that was kind of fun to explore. But honestly, it's like 2 or 3 minutes.
So
it's really
clunky.
It is kind of clunky.
That item system. So let's say you grab your spells that you want, and some guy's attacking you, and you got to switch things over. First off, the whole time you're carrying this chalice thing, right? And you can't move away from the chalice, so you can't just like run away. You kind of have to stay there, or else like be really strategic and just like keep grabbing the thing, running away. But every time a bad guy hits you, you drop the chalice, and you can't move out of the range of the chalice, or else you're going to take damage, and it sucks. The item inventory thing. So if you get something like food, if you don't have cure or whatever, and your shit is filled up, you have to then go into the item menu on your Game Boy Advance. You can't then control your character at all.
Right.
Go into that item menu, and then you can equip the food to the inventory, or use it then. And I just found that to be incredibly frustrating. So the use of food as a cure item was extremely annoying.
Yeah.
And almost impossible. So we basically ignored it. It's like, just find the cure. Kill the guys, find the cure spell, attach that cure spell to one of your what was 3 slots becomes 4 slots, becomes 5 slots as you level up through the game. Just go through one of those, put it in one of those slots, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, the combat is super simple. I just wish the item system was more fluid and made sense.
It's not very intuitive, and there are times where you'll be like, oh man, we'll grab the spell, and we won't realize that our list of items that's on our menu that we can scroll through with L and R is full. So the spell will then go like into your inventory, and so then we jump into the boss fight, and suddenly you have to go into your inventory and start digging around and trade out
while the boss is fighting you.
Yeah, while we're getting hammered by this boss.
Because the game doesn't pause when you're in the menu by yourself.
You can pause it, but you can't mess around with the menu while it's paused. So you have to
Which
go
is
in
insane.
there, quickly throw on the spell you need, then get out of the menu, then you have control of your character again, and then you can move around and use the ability that you were lacking. So it's kind of frustrating in that way. And then also, speaking of level ups, there aren't really level ups in this game.
This is the worst part of this game right here. You want to talk about the artifacts?
Yeah, the artifacts. So when you're going through these levels, you have random little points that you earn for doing things that are just like completely random. As far as I could tell, there might be a system to the madness, but it's like, okay, took physical damage, and like whoever has the most points at the end of the dungeon gets to choose from the artifacts that you found, and you find artifacts in the treasure chests. Shitty part about the game, you can't have the same artifact more than once, apparently. So like when I get this specific artifact,
But the artifacts are random.
I can't get it. Yeah, they're random
Out of a select group of
artifacts during select years. And you might be able to select them and you might not. And there are times where even if you don't have it, you still can't select the artifact. So it's like it's all over the place with the artifacts. I don't really care for the system that much. One of the nice things about the artifacts, though, is while you're playing the level, you pick up the artifact, you gain the boost during that level. So in the final mission, in the final zone, we were able to gain like
every single treasure chest in the final zone was an artifact.
Yeah, and we got most of them by the time we were ready to go take on the boss, and we, of course, filled up our artifact inventory, and we had to move on. But I gained like 10 strength or something like that. I had a lot more strength by the end and a decent chunk of defense. So there is a benefit, and there is kind of a way out from kind of sort of getting stuck on the final boss in the game. But the artifact system,
it's stupid.
Not a big fan of. Because
it's stupid. It's the fact that you can get to a boss, you can do a bajillion levels and get nowhere, like we did
multiple
a couple
times.
weeks ago.
There was a full day, a full 7-hour session of gaming where I didn't gain a single stat.
So
we played it.
No, you gained some stats, but they weren't major, and they weren't enough.
No, it wasn't nearly enough.
Yeah, there were like 4. We went through 4 levels, and you hadn't gained a stat. It wasn't 7 hours, but it was a lot.
And there were times where, like in the chat, somebody'd say, "Oh, it's because you didn't clear everything. We cleared the next level."
Then we
all
would
the
go
way.
and clear it, and it wouldn't be the case.
Yeah, so the game doesn't explain the artifact system very well to begin with.
It's ridiculous that you don't get at least like a minor increase in stats just by finishing a level.
Yeah,
like to me that would make sense. It went against everything Final Fantasy is about.
Yeah, and the thing is
it was an entirely item based system.
Yeah, which is
what's another game that did that? Something else did that we played recently, where it was like all item based on your stats and shit. Was it Nier?
I don't know. Nier kind of has it.
Whatever it is, this is the worst version of it. It was terrible. And it's the reason why our time is a few hours longer than it is on howlongtobeat.com.
Yeah, it's because the game didn't really tell us what we needed to do, so we just kept doing missions over again. And the problem with doing areas over again is they get progressively harder each time. So it's not like we're just going through a level 1 area, dominating everything, and then being mad that we don't get upgrades. We're going through it for the 4th time, really fighting our way through and not getting anything out of it, and it's frustrating.
I don't like that random number generator aspect of it.
No,
and it's so unforgiving.
Really what it is, it's an MMO in a single-player game when it comes to those item drops, and it's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't mind the idea of gaining stats through items as long as the items are regularly dispensed to me. The problem is we had hours of time where I wasn't getting a single fucking stat boost, and we weren't. And like I said, we're not going through level 1 areas. We're not fighting weak ass one shot enemies.
We went around to other ones because we were like, maybe it wants us to do that.
Yeah, and it didn't matter. It was still randomly fucking me over, and it's extremely frustrating. And it's like a kid's game. It's like, God, what are you doing here? Like the canon ending is in 8 years, and we finished in 11 because it was so difficult because we weren't getting drops. It's not that it's hard, it's that the game was making it hard. It was and it does get very frustrating. Speaking of, you can select one of 4 classes in the beginning of the game, one of 4 races who have like varying stats. So it's similar to MMOs that way as well.
It affects your equipment like crazy.
Oh yeah, there are certain things that are you'll find items throughout the game that give you, they're basically blueprints, and you can then craft new weaponry. And if we had one person from each of the 4 races, it'd be fine because we'd be able to like trade and like craft everything we possibly need. But the problem is I was a Clavat and you were whatever the fuck you were, and
a sexy,
and we didn't really get a whole lot of items like available. Like I ran into a spot where I could get Excalibur, but I didn't have the one random item drop to build the thing, so we just had to go into the final zone with what we could muster. And it sucks because I want to pick up everything in a game because it's a Final Fantasy. You don't want to throw anything away necessarily, but then you get to these spots where it's like, okay, I've got a bunch of stuff. Now let's go to the village and see what we can build.
It was random, Schweiss. We only ever didn't go to one village that you had to have a special pass to get through. We had that pass later on. We just never did it.
Oh, okay.
But I bet it's a dropped item. I doubt it's one that you can buy.
I bet you're right. It's something that's going to be dropped because it's a legendary weapon for my class as far as I can tell. It's Excalibur, so it's a big deal.
Right.
Couldn't get it, which is fine. We still beat the game without it, and I had plenty of strength. But it's like, it's frustrating because there are specific items that can only go to a certain class, and it sucks when you're only playing with 2 people. If we had a 4-man party, that we probably wouldn't have had any problems with that, or at least not as many problems with it, because you can then sell your the excess ones in a shop to get a couple extra gil to then buy materials to craft your own.
A 4-man party where everyone's a different race.
Yeah.
You could just level it out and have no equipment go to waste.
Yeah,
I could see the upside to that. So, okay, is there any part of gameplay we haven't really touched on? I guess the enemies, there's some standard Final Fantasy enemies in there. There's some stuff I don't think I've seen before. There's elemental spells that make you freeze while you're getting gang raped by like 9 different guys.
Yeah. Status effects. We got slow. We've got freeze.
There's guys that are ghosts, which we only figured out this trick the last day of
We shouldn't have, though, because the
game.
Lich boss was the same way, and he was a ghost. But you have to hit him with Holy to make him visible.
Holy. You make him visible for a few seconds, and within those few seconds, you do way more damage to him.
Yeah.
And thus, he doesn't take like 90 hits in order to go down, which was like, oh my gosh, why didn't we get this before? Because I remember being stuck on a guy. That was a ghost guy in the Minecart Carnage, is what I call it. But yeah, there's that. The game. Otherwise, it's clunky, but it's simple. And for the most part, it's a pretty easy game. It's only not easy if the random number generator of the game has screwed you over and you don't have enough defense and strength to get through a certain boss or something like that. The bosses, by the way, most of the strategy that Schweiss and I came up with, and this was for most of them, not all of them, there'd be some ads on the boss you kind of got to clear, and then you got to attack the boss. So we'd both clear the ads, and then whoever kind of had the best stats for the job or didn't have the spells would go attack the boss while the other person cured.
Yeah, that was pretty much the strat.
It's like a white mage tank warrior situation.
Yeah, it really was. And occasionally you could throw in a couple attacks here and there, just like you would a white mage in 14.
Yeah.
So
we played it like an MMO.
We did, yeah. And it's kind of how the game is designed in a lot of ways. I mean, the random item drops, the style of it feels MMO-like. And of course, it's not massively multiplayer. It's up to 4 people, and it certainly isn't online. So
it's up to 4 people that all have a Game Boy Advance and a cord to
and
go
a link
with
cable,
because you can't use a regular GameCube controller.
Yeah, God forbid
wouldn't want to do that.
We use one of the 4 controller ports that the GameCube came with. We're going to make him use a Game Boy Advance and a separate fucking cord. I think this is... You know what I think what happened? I think Square was like...
we could simplify the menu system, or...
I think Square came to Nintendo and they were like, we want to put another Final Fantasy on your system. And they're like, okay, but you have to sell our Game Boy Advance link cables because they're not doing well right now. They're like, deal. And then they fucking did this. That's why we have to use...
Wouldn't surprise me.
And you know what? I have said that the GameCube controller is awful, and I do believe it is awful. But you know what?
It's bad, but whatever.
I have space on the GameCube controller. I bump L and R all the time on the Game Boy because it's so tiny. It's like smaller than one hand, and I've got 2 man hands holding this tiny little child's toy, and I bump it all the time. So I'll like, instead of doing a bunch of attacks, I'm like sitting there like spamming cure, but it's not actually going off because you have to hold it for a few seconds before it casts. So I'm just like emitting light over and over instead of attacking the boss, and like it's kind of frustrating.
Don't notice it for a second.
Yeah, you don't notice it for a second, or like you're looking at the other person. Like it's just, it gets kind of crazy. Apparently, this is praised for its usage of the link cable. because that's like one of the best usages of the link cable, which I'm sure is true. But
Well, how about the only?
Yeah, the only
one of the only usages for the link cable. Come on.
Yeah, no kidding. It's not great, and that's one of the frustrating parts. I mean, I think the game would be a lot more fun if they had one simple change. Defend was just another button.
I wish there was a dodge roll.
Or a dodge roll. Some way to avoid attacks without just swinging once and then running out of the way.
That must be why there's only a 2-button system, is because you're using the Game Boy. So you can't have all 4 buttons, right?
Yeah, so they're limiting the ability to play the game. They're limiting, like, cool things like counters maybe, or blocking or anything like that, because you have the defend function, but again, you have to select it on your list of commands, so you have to make it the primary thing. There is no // block / it's just /LLLL block RRRRR attack again.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do that, which you don't, so
No.
you either take it or you run.
You just take it or run. Yeah, exactly. So sometimes you're able to do that because a boss will have some sort of attack where he's focusing on one of you, and he'll do some sort of animation, and that lets you know to get out of the way. But you can't get out of the way in any modern game sense, where you usually have some sort of dodge function.
Yeah.
In this, it's just like, well, walk your regular speed out of the way of the beam that the boss is about to do.
Yeah.
That's pretty much your only option there.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of like timing based stuff that you can use for the game. I mean, the most timing that exists is the ability to do a 3-hit combo while you're attacking the enemy, which does more damage, but sometimes it's almost worse because you'll start doing that combo and you'll get hit because of it. And so there's not a whole lot going on as far as like the strategy, other than learning the attack patterns of the enemies and then hitting once, running away while they do their big swing attack, going in, hitting again, running away, they attack. So it's like, it's kind of clunky, like you said. It's kind of archaic. It's
clunky, but I'll tell you what, I had fun playing this, Schweiss. Just overall, I had fun, except on the day when we went through hell. And it's probably because it was just kind of a simple, stupid game with multiplayer elements in it. You know, like one of us hanging back in Kieran while we're trying to slam the boss.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think it was fun.
It was fun.
I'm glad we played it together, because I don't what they kind of set up for single player, I guess, is instead of one of the characters carrying the chalice that keeps the miasma away, it's the Moogle. A Moogle carries the chalice. So I can't imagine the AI behind the Moogle is that great. But it would be kind of nice to just have somebody following you around that doesn't ever mess up. Like, sometimes we're not super coordinated, so like it'll always, I would imagine it always follows you, or else the game would be terrible. But yeah, a really standard, kind of old school, not a whole lot going on.
It's pretty standard kids game GameCube quality. Yeah.
And I don't dislike the artifact system. I just don't like how they don't drop all the time. And I don't like how you can't have multiples of one artifact. Like, you should be able to grind your way to at least be ready for the final boss by the end of Year 8, which is the canon ending, and we were not. We weren't at all. Right. We weren't at all equipped to deal with that shit.
There's an old guy who kind of, he visits you every time you leave the village up to the end of Year 7, and then he's gone.
Yeah, he doesn't meet you on the bridge.
He disapproves of you.
Taking forever, yeah.
My idea is that he's dead, obviously. I mean, he was old, so.
Well, you can still see him in the village.
And it was 7 years. Maybe is it him? Is he moving?
Maybe he's just moved on.
Stuffed.
He's just tired of your ass. But, yeah, gameplay, not the best, but I did still have fun. I do think it's a fun little game. I don't know if it's necessarily something you need to play.
Wouldn't be a bad game for them to figure out multiplayer.
Yeah. I think it'd be more fun with 4 people for sure. The more people, the merrier in this game. If you're going to play Crystal Chronicles, try to get a group of 4 people. Good luck.
All buy a link cable.
Buy a Game Boy Advance, and play this fucking game, because I think the more, the merrier.
I think it would be good to have on cell phones, play over the
That would
internet.
be fun, yeah, that'd be fun. If they had an online function, so you didn't have to go through so much fucking insanity to play it. And don't even get me started on what we had to do to stream this fucking thing. Like absolute chaos. There are so many cords everywhere in here right now because of it. Because we got the.
I set up beautifully the entire.
It doesn't matter.
Platform.
This is different. This we have cord lengths.
I know.
We can't alter the length of the cord. So we've got the red, white, yellow cable coming from the Wii. That goes into our converter that converts it to an HDMI, which of course goes into our splitter, which then allows us to connect it to the Elgato, which goes into the computer so that we have the stream going into the
other
capture.
end of the splitter being to the TV that we're using.
Yeah, the other end of the splitter going into the television. And of course, power supplies out the ass.
Some things have to be power supplied. Some things don't.
Some things are power supplied, some things aren't. We have to move the camera around, switch which camera we're using. Like it's awful. It's terrible. To start this, it's always like a 20-minute, like, all right, what's not plugged in? Something's not running because the game's not showing up. I got to find out, like, am I on the right channel? Am I in the right input? Like, do I have everything plugged in? Like, where's the problem? Oh, that's right. I have to plug in the fucking the converter to a USB drive. I forgot about that. So I throw that in, and then I have to plug in the fucking
all for you
splitter.
guys at twitch.tv/Ultimate Final Fantasy.
That's right, yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed it, because we're not going to stream the next one because we have it on
it's DS,
DS, and neither of us are spending $300 to mod our DSs to stream. That's never going to happen.
Sorry, guys. But anyway, gameplay overall, Schweiss, I had fun. It's super clunky. It's definitely a kid's game, so I'm not going to, like, totally recommend it or say that I was like, wow, really awesome game. No, it wasn't. It was okay. But, you know, I had fun. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah, if you can get a party together, I would recommend playing it. But that's probably about it. I mean, there's not much to be had there.
And we were told by Jake that this is the best one in the series. Is that correct?
That's not a good sign. There are 6 of them.
Yes.
And
there's only 5 left.
This is the cream of the crop.
This is the one that rose to the top.
This is it, yeah. This is where it all the goodness comes from, is this fucking game. Hopefully people are wrong, though, because there have been plenty of times where people like, Caleb Craig was like, Tactics Advance is shit, so was A2. And we had a good amount of fun with those games.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. I don't think anybody has played My Life as a Dark Lord or My Life as a King, so fuck.
Pretty sure we're the only people who've ever purchased that on the Wii store.
Yeah, they were like, wow, somebody bought that? Now?
Yeah, now?
Like, why?
2015, we're going into the Wii store and be like, yes.
These two. This is all I want.
$12 worth of game. And, of course, you got to fill up that Wii wallet.
Yeah.
Oh, would you like it in increments of 10 or 5?
It's like, well, I guess either way, you get to keep extra dollars from me, don't you, Nintendo? Thank you.
Real smart. Real smart.
It's like, oops, you have 90 coins and the game costs 100. I guess that money is just in the drain. Down the crapper. That's what that's. And I actually did lose money because there was nothing I could buy. It's over.
Well, they closed the Wii store now, I think. Right?
Yeah, so now I've definitely lost money.
We both got the games, though, in case one of our Wiis break.
Yeah, we have it, so.
Yeah, it exists.
It's a thing.
What do you think of the gameplay overall?
It's fine.
It's fine.
I like some of the aspects of it. I do like the artifact system because I like that it's different. I like that we have a different setup. I think it's cool that they tie it to the items. I just don't like the implementation of it. I don't like how you can't carry more than one of the artifacts, because if you find more than one of the artifacts, you should be able to carry more than one of them. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that it has 2 manifestations in existence in this world. Like, I have the claw of, Artemis or whatever, and I have another one. It's like, why is there another one if I can't pick it up? And it's, well, the other player can pick it up. I'm like, well, why are there 2, but not 2 for me? Like, it just doesn't make sense in any sort of real life form, and I don't dig how they implemented it. I think it's fine that it's a simply played game. I think it's fine that the control scheme is like very easily laid out. I think there are some things that they could definitely improve on, especially with the menu system. Pretty much a lot of the gameplay problems kind of center around that.
But overall,
yeah, it's fine.
That's right.
It's all right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of, it's all right. Let's talk about design and let's talk about music.
All right.
Okay, Schweiss is this is the first Final Fantasy on a GameCube. How do you think it looked?
I think it looks fine. I mean, for 2 generations ago, it's not a terrible looking game. The only big
terrible
design problem I have is how dark some of these fucking levels are. We can't see much of anything in some of these cave levels, and there are a lot of levels that take place in caves and underground and in dark places.
To be fair, we are going through composite cables into a digital conversion into HDMI, and then that's going onto your flat screen TV, and then it's also stretching the image. So we are getting a bastardization of this experience. But as far as like the graphic quality overall, I think we can kind of say, it's got some kind of like I would say FF9-esque character models, a little bit more detailed than that, I guess. In the backgrounds, they're not pre-rendered or anything. It's all 3D. But they are pretty simple and cartoony, and that kind of, when you do a cartoony design game, you kind of cover up the fact that the graphics may not be great.
Yeah, it's a good way to do that.
But overall, I thought it looked okay. It's not Resident Evil 4, but on the GameCube. But I think it looks all right for a kid's game.
Yeah, the spells are fun. The world map, I like the way it looks.
The final boss we were mentioning when we got to these secrets. Look, there's another final boss after the final boss. When we got to that one, although we can't see shit when we're targeting, I thought the level looked pretty cool, and the use of light.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting on that one.
Yeah, similar thing happened in Vagrant Story, where it looks cool, but it's impossible to do anything on the map. Yeah. It's impossible to see what the fuck's happening.
That's exactly right.
So it is extremely frustrating as far as the design goes.
I don't know if the backgrounds look any better than they did in Vagrant Story, and this is a generation after that.
Yeah.
Like the environments. But, I mean, Vagrant Story is on the kind of top tier of PS1, and this is definitely low tier of GameCube. Or at least mid-tier, I guess. I don't know what low tier would be for GameCube. I haven't seen the bad-looking game for GameCube, but
yeah.
I thought it was okay. I mean, you got the message across, and it was really cartoony. It was fine.
Yeah. I don't have any real problems.
As far as graphics are concerned. What did you think of the level designs, though? Because, I mean, each area was unique. There was a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, I actually kind of enjoyed the level design in this game. I like how it threw you off guard a couple times. Like if you'd come back to the mushroom forest or whatever on the third time, like the layout of the map is different. And I kind of like that. It adds variety to the game. I mean, we all know variety is the spice of life, and this game does become very repetitive near the end if you're trying to grind out for stats.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of nice to get a little bit of a change, to have some slightly more difficult enemies, to have like different item layouts. I mean, for the most part, everything is laid out the same, but I kind of do like the way the maps are set up in the game. I don't have any problem with that. I like how
the maps are cool. I think the maps are definitely cool. The
minecart carnage level, I mean, it's fun that you can choose like from a couple different options on where you want to take your cart. You can go get the extra items, or you can leave them. There's variety there, and each area kind of does feel a little bit different.
There was never any repeat areas, really.
Yeah, other than when we were repeating the areas, of course.
Except for that, you're right.
But yeah, it all felt unique, and I would say memorable as far as the design goes.
I think thematically it really does fit with Nintendo, because it's almost like the areas were based. I know that the Mario Kart levels are all based on different Nintendo games, but it almost felt like the Mario Kart of Final Fantasy. It just had a bunch of like different Final Fantasy looking areas.
Yeah.
A little bit more cartoony versions of those things, and I liked going through there. Minecart Carnage. There was one where it was like a goblin town. Basically, there was a mushroom forest. There was a regular forest early on in the game. There was like a crystal-y looking area. There's a volcano-looking area, a whole bunch of different stuff. So, and in that kind of way, it does take upon that. That's the most, I guess, another Final Fantasy-esque thing about this game, besides like the names of the spells and shit like that. the old Final Fantasies would have you go into like the 4 different crystals, and they would each have a very unique big dungeon having to do with that. Now these are small dungeons, but it's almost like a bunch of little different areas in other Final Fantasy games put together. Although not as linked as like FF14 would straight up just take design from another game.
Yeah,
it's just more like the feel of it.
Yeah, kind of a thematic.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I think the enemies look fine for what it is. There's not a whole lot of variety when it comes to the enemies, like change colors and stuff like that. Certain areas have like bombs that are specific to what they have.
It may have more enemies designs than Final Fantasy X.
yeah, it's probably on par with that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. There's Flan.
Different colors.
You're in a Final Fantasy game when there's Flan, right?
That's right. Yeah, and then the eyeball dudes.
Yeah, we had the cockatrices.
Yeah.
That was your first ever rant, by the way. Final Fantasy 1 episode.
Yeah, how it's like not a cockatrice at all. Yeah.
They're freezing you all the time.
Yes, fuck that, man.
They're doing the same thing in this game.
They are. You get frozen all the time
all
in this
time.
game. One has nothing on the amount of freeze that goes on here.
So design, I think we're both kind of okay with it.
Yeah, it's fine looking.
Like the levels, the graphics are
The lighting is the most frustrating part, but you can get around it. I mean, if you have a map.
I think part of our problem with the lighting may be the system that we have here. It might degrade.
Oh, you mean like the 6,000 different things we have to do to play this game?
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar problem streaming Metal Gear Solid. Just going that AV composite cable going into an HD television right now.
Not great looking.
It doesn't look great. I almost like maybe we should have kept your old tube TV or whatever.
I still have it upstairs.
Oh man, we should. I mean, if we're ever gonna like have like a real discussion about how one of these games look, you kind of got to put it onto one of those TVs.
Yeah, because it's designed to be played on there. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, design. Music. I mean, everybody loves the soundtrack to this game, Schweiss.
Of course, yeah. Let's play me a sample. I mean, I pray that we don't get muted on Twitch, but something tells me that we'll be just fine.
Here we go. Playing the wonderful song Final Fantasy Crystal.
Yes.
And we're just going to let that go for 25 more minutes.
Yeah, the bells. And I had a discussion with Jake yesterday when I was picking up a game from him and dropping off Guitar Hero Metallica. Great soundtrack, by the way. Amazing soundtrack. Probably the best soundtrack in a video game ever. Easily. By like a mile. But I was dropping that off, and he was like, you know what? Nobuo Uematsu made a bell song, too. And he played that one, and I'm like, yeah, but there's about 4 other instruments going on in the background, and it changes. This one, it just does that forever. It just does that forever on the menu, and it's like, it's kind of cool. It honestly, it suffers from what I call Armored Core for Answer syndrome, where they find a cool sound, a cool set of notes, and then they just keep doing it. They just keep doing that
for
cool
every song. For every effing song.
Almost every song.
There was one piece of music that played near the end.
That was really good?
That was really good.
It was like really good, yeah. It was a great song.
I think we'd heard it once before in the game, maybe. I don't know what the piece is called. There's 70 freaking tracks on this OST, so I haven't gone through it.
Yeah, and I do kind of commend the soundtrack for giving off a kind of Final Fantasy IX-esque feel. It does feel like that castle-y kind of hilly theme, like you're in Scotland and England
sort of thing.
There are some great songs on here. Do you have the main map theme? I say you whipped that one out too.
Is that the one I was playing before?
Yes, it was.
Okay, then I do. It'll take me a second though.
So the soundtrack is kind of. It's sort of hit and miss. There are some good themes in some of the caves. There are some fun ones. It's got like for the most part, they fit. However, like you said, there are 70 tracks. Yeah, let's just let this sink in. So that's fine. I don't despise it.
It's not fine after 25 minutes.
And then it starts over. So it's more advanced than Armored Core 4 Answer, but by about 3 phrases or so.
I think the soundtrack to Armored Core 4 Answer, which if you haven't heard that episode of Nude Clan, that's a good one to check out. I think that soundtrack is better than this soundtrack. Schweiss, look, there's some melodies in there. I'm not going to argue.
There are, yeah.
Melodies exist.
When I was trying to find a terrible song, I found an actually pretty awesome one. When I was listening to the review again, I was like, that was actually pretty sweet.
In this game, there are songs.
Yeah.
Like,
many.
16 bars worth of songs that are hammered upon over and over and over, and they don't change.
No.
And it's like Chinese water torture, man. It just keeps going, and you go mad because it just keeps on hitting your forehead, just keeps going.
Yeah,
I can't.
One thing
I hate this soundtrack now. I hate it.
I was talking
when that first Crystal song popped up when we started. I mean, it's immediately bad for me. That first song that we just played, or that we played before the one that we just played.
The bling, cling, cling.
Yes,
the bells. Yeah.
Yes, but then we got into the game, and I was like, oh, this isn't bad. It's kind of Nobuo-like. It's very strong melodies.
Yeah.
And, simple instrumentation, right? Sometimes he does really complex stuff, but most of the time he doesn't. And then it went on repeat, and then all these pleasant tunes that I was like into for once again about 30 seconds. They started to just
disgust
grind
you.
on me. And there is one very Final Fantasy IX-esque piece. It's the piece that plays right before the ending theme song, before the credits. Whatever song that is.
That one's pretty great.
That one sounded pretty great. It had a little bit more variety, but honestly, the rest of the soundtrack makes it... I hate it. I hate it.
You know, I think they added a little too much kazoo, if I'm going to be honest here.
There's some kazoo songs as well.
There's a lot of kazoo in this game, and there should never be a kazoo in any game, probably. It's lower than a recorder on the instrument scale.
Needs to be eradicated from existence.
Yeah, we need to unmake the kazoo. It's one of those things we wish we could undo. And it is grating, and it's like ridiculous. And some of it's like fun. You're like having fun because you're, making fun of it. And it's rough. And it sucks because there are unique level designs in the game, but then they start repeating those same songs that you don't want to hear anymore because you've spent time going through the level, grabbing all the artifacts to, not get the artifacts at the end, and then you have to hear the same song over and over and over. And the map theme, part of it might be what Jake was telling me, it's like bad gameplay implementation of the music, but I don't think that's necessarily completely true.
Well, the theme is 40 seconds long. It's 6 notes.
You're there for a long time on the map.
And it just keeps repeating.
You're there for a very long time. And it sucks because every time you run into one of those little quick time events with characters, you get out and it starts it right back from the beginning, and you just have to hear that fucking caravan theme, and the music is grating. There are some pretty good pieces, and I don't mind the final theme song, to be honest. I think it's fine.
Oh, the song?
Yeah, it's not the
song
worst.
Wasn't terrible. I thought it was boring, but I wasn't like wanting to kill myself listening to it.
Yeah, I feel like it's
like
similar
many of the pieces in this game.
Yeah, I feel like it's similar to Type Zero's, where it's like, whatever, it's fine. It's okay.
I disagree. I don't think it's okay at all.
You don't think Type Zero's is okay?
I think Type Zero's soundtrack is pretty good, actually.
Oh, no, I meant the final theme. It's similar to the feeling I had with that one. I was like,
that ending song, I was like, well, I don't love it and I don't hate it. It's fine.
Yeah, which is rare. Usually it's very one way or the other with these theme songs.
That is very true. That is very true. So far we've had 2 loves and
they're both the online games.
4 okays and then some hates.
Yeah, and then some, well, it's a pop song, so I kind of just hate it defaultly in real life.
This is my least favorite soundtrack we have come across in this series so far.
Even more than Revenant?
Totally, yes.
Because Revenant did have some 12 pieces, which were fun.
Yes.
And you know what? I will say Dirge had some pretty sweet songs by the end.
Had some pretty good music.
Some metal, which is great.
It's like all of Nobuo Uematsu's annoying themes.
The shop theme.
The shop theme.
Yeah. The fucking the auction house.
The auction house one's a good version of that.
Coliseum.
The S-Star theme is another one. All the really shitty, annoying pieces from Nobuo Uematsu, because it takes a great composer to really make something that makes you want to blow your brains out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all of that, only he just took one section of it and then just kept repeating it over and
You know
over.
what? I'll say I think we need similar to what we want to do with the Doom, because you remember like the original Doom, like he gave the music guys some CDs and he said to make it sound like this, and they made it sound exactly like that.
Yeah, he ripped off songs.
A lot of great
many,
songs.
Hard rock artists, yeah.
Yes. We need to find out exactly what songs they gave Kumi Tanioka to then rip off and put into this game.
That must have been it.
They're like, here's a select random. I had a guy burn every Final Fantasy song that wasn't scratched and like that he had access to. What songs were they?
You know what's funny about the kazoo use in this thing? The kazoo was used in the levels that seemed like they were dark and scary.
Yeah, it was like happy.
That's when the kazoo was
Yeah.
used.
Kazoo does not.
Like, ugh.
It's kind of a gross instrument. Like,
It's
It's the sound
terrible.
of like spit slapping around inside a.
That's it. That is what it
Kazoo.
is.
And it's the easiest instrument to play. I will say anyone can play the kazoo. So it's like
yes.
not impressed here. The bells, I probably couldn't just play the bells. I mean, it would take me a minute or two. It's like when I'm plinking around on the piano and I'm like, I want to play the Lord of the Rings theme, and I'm like, wow, it's literally just jumping one note ahead and then back 2 notes and then the note in between and then back 2 notes, and it's it's
like,
awesome. But
it's like you never learned music.
no, I did.
I
And that's
know,
why I could do
that's
that.
why.
But
Like, what are you talking?
But when I'm like
it's
thinking,
like 2 notes and then there's 1 note.
yeah.
That's
I
a real,
can't. You know,
that's a
what's-
real self-taught guitarist thing to say.
Yeah,
it's like
that's right.
The 4th, that note right there, and then that one.
You know what the sad thing is, though?
Yeah.
I can't read sheet music anymore. Like I used to be able
I
to
can
do
read it very slowly.
I can't. I have no idea what's what anymore. And I used to know because
All
that's how you
cows
play.
eat grass, FACE on the treble clef. And then you should be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do like the
You're welcome.
2 Xanarkin thing, but I was like, I have no idea what 2 notes you combine in the beginning of that. I could do the rest of it. The do 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 do, cling. But yeah. So it's like you're taking the easiest instrument in the world. It's not even an instrument; it's a toy for a child, and you're featuring it in the game, and it hurts. It's too much.
It's too much. So yeah, music's terrible.
Yeah, it's not great. It's
terrible.
one of the worst soundtracks
Can you think of a worse one?
in the series.
Can you think of a game where we went through and we said the music was awful? I know we went through like Tactics Advanced and was like, it was okay. But as far as any that were bad,
No, I think this might be the worst music in the series
okay, I agree with you.
so far. I can't.
But you're still lukewarm on it, and I fucking hate it.
There are some really good tracks, like
I
2.
think there's one. I think there's one good track.
I
that
think
I
some of
ever
the
noticed.
cave themes were fun. They were pretty good. But it does it too often. And it sucks because it does the ones you don't really care for too often. But the really awesome like main theme, I'm going to call it now, is only used twice. Or 3 times, maybe.
Okay.
And it's great. But the rest, yeah, it ranges from god-awful to awful.
Okay.
For the most part. And it's unfortunate because that's one of the staples of Final Fantasy, and they completely missed the bar. They don't even know where the bar is when they finish.
They
this
dropped
game.
the ball.
Yeah,
There you go.
they dropped the ball.
They dropped the ball. Well, we do have some questions, and we got some reviews from our listeners. Then we'll talk about Legacy, do an overall, and then our single ranking
Yes, we
will
will.
follow. So let's get to them questions.
Questions for us. We would like to hear from you. You or us. Contact us on Twitter. Get on and ask your questions. We'll answer them in a week. This is the question segment. Ask and you will receive.
All right, first up here from Red Rose. Howdy, gents. 1. Did you guys have any trouble getting to play co-op? Or did you already have the necessary parts and systems ready to do that?
How did we get the cords?
From our listener.
Okay.
So we didn't have any trouble because it was donated to us. In
Thank
a way,
you.
where he loaned it to us, and now we're going to send it
to us.
back.
We got to send it back.
With a care package, of course.
Yes. Thank you.
With some songs.
Appreciate it.
Maybe, I might even put our remixes on there, too. Just throw like a Ultimate Final Fantasy CD together. Just real quick. A little quick project.
And that won't be quick now.
You have some of them not
here.
here.
You gotta put the UFF shit. I guess it'll be fine, actually.
It's bad. That's what we'll do when people loan us shit. We'll just like... It's like the Scout motto, leave it nicer than when you got there.
You'll get a burned CD of music.
Yeah, the equipment might be shittier than it once was, but you'll have music. So it's in a way, it's better.
Don't even joke about that.
The equipment's fine.
The VR set is
the VR
okay,
set,
right?
you know what? It's in pristine condition because it has not been touched in some time.
All right.
There might be some some dirt or something
dust.
on it. Dust from it chilling. So no. Would you ever play this game again out of your own volition? I don't think so.
I'm giving my copy away. Got to figure out how I'm going to give some of these games away, so enjoy it.
Yeah, maybe if someone had a party of 3 and they invited me, and I made the schedule when I felt like playing it, maybe. That'll never happen because no one else is going to play this game again.
What was your favorite thing about this game? The fact that you could do a Final Fantasy multiplayer.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the spell combos in the game.
Like a real multiplayer. I know you can do things where you play 2 of the characters in battle.
Yeah, in the OG ones
that
on
ain't the
PS1.
same.
No, it's not. And this required actual cooperation on a level that's almost above MMOs in some ways because you will die if you fuck up at times.
What was your least favorite thing about the game?
The rest. No, least favorite probably the menu system. I think is pretty bad. I think it's awful having to you have only a certain amount of slots, and then anything you pick up after that goes into your menu automatically. So you have to jump into this clunky Game Boy Advance menu. Which, by the way, if you don't have an SP, you can't see. You just can't see what's happening on the screen below you. I don't know how.
It's just hard.
I don't know how I casually played a Game Boy Advance when I was younger. I don't know how I could stand it. I played it outside sometimes. I don't get it. I put up with so much bullshit when I was younger, and I just didn't even know it until now. So that's easily my least favorite thing in this game.
My least favorite thing about the game is the poorly implemented artifact system.
Okay.
So, because it fucked us over, and we could have reviewed this 2 weeks ago.
We could have, yeah. Thanks for all that you do. Also, I totally work at the post office as a city carrier, so I got stoked when I heard Caleb can relate to a lot of my daily ongoings. Yeah, they work you to death.
Random dude.
Aldwin, who was, of course, on the stream with us. Always.
Do you feel like you missed out on a lot of the story by only playing the dungeons and rushing through?
Okay.
If you had the chance, would you go back and play some of the side quests, flesh out some more of the game, or recommend other people playing alone or with friends to do so? It's pretty much one question.
In my extremely specific scenario, I would probably do the rest of it. But asking me if I feel like I missed out on a lot of the story by only playing the dungeons and rushing through is like asking someone who didn't have electricity how they were able to survive without electricity. You just didn't have it, so you just survived. That's just how it was, and this is just how it was. We didn't do the extra stuff, so we don't feel like we missed out on anything because we don't know what we missed out on or if there was anything to miss out on. Now, also, I don't like the idea if there is more story.
We did one Moogle game.
Yeah, we collected some stamps. And oh my God, you're right. We played a Moogle Mario Kart, which was abysmal.
We played Moogle Mario Kart, yes.
And
that's when we were like, no more.
Yeah, that was the first and last straw.
Yes.
It was the shortest straw.
So I don't know if we are missing out on that much.
And you know what? I don't like the idea of hiding story behind bonus stuff that takes hours and hours. I don't know.
What story is it really hiding?
It's fine if it's adding to the main story, but there's not really much story there to be added to. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on a lot.
I'm not connecting to all those caravans that we're coming across.
Yeah, it's just kind of nothing. It's just kind of it doesn't matter. But that's just me. I don't know. I just don't think it matters. It doesn't feel like I'm missing anything. I don't feel as if I needed more from the game. And that was kind of one of the charming things about the game almost, was that it was very simple. Extremely simple. Like, even the part where it's like, oh, these characters jumped out of nowhere, it's not a big deal because it's the end. And, you know, you can tell they're just opposing forces.
Favorite boss/enemy design in the game?
Final boss has been cool.
Boss.
I think
boss.
it's final
boss.
Yeah, not plant boss, who was technically the final one because you
I think his name is like Memoria or something like that, or Memoria, something in that category.
He was cool.
Yeah,
he was
pretty
cool.
Favorite dungeon? Minecart Carnage. It was simple, and yeah, I knew the way. That was really the most important part for me when we had to replay dungeons. What about you?
You know what? I liked that one too. I enjoyed that one, and I kind of liked the final area just because it felt different. You know, it was really abysmal. We had the rocks to break. We had those miasma chunks that would just ruin our little thing, and I don't know. I thought it was fun. It was a good final dungeon.
Do you feel like the lore in the game was interesting, like how the Lilties used to control this vast empire, or how the Selkies were outcasts from the other races?
Nope. Don't care.
Didn't even notice.
Yeah, it wasn't really.
Sorry.
I only get into lore when I like the story, and the story was barely existent, so I don't generally care.
How does it compare to other FF universes like Ivalice or more generic FFs? I don't think it's quite as rich. But, you know, he did say there was some lore there that we obviously missed out on. So
yeah, I think it's fine.
It was fine.
But
it's pretty like it's like a cookie cutter standard version of another Final Fantasy universe, which I think may be kind of the point. Maybe just a little bit. Just to get them GameCube players into the Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, there you go. What do you want out of a sequel, not having gotten into the ones that already exist yet? Ideally, how would it be handled, and what changes would you make?
I would change the level up system so that we knew we could level up, and we knew what to do when we were behind.
Yeah, I would change the music completely. I would change the gameplay. I'd make the combat a little bit more intuitive, a little less simple. I'd add a little bit of complexity in a sensible manner. I'd make it like you'd have a block function, kind of, is basically what I want out of the game.
Yeah, you just want a block function.
Yeah, I really do. Like, a block function would make the worlds a world of difference for me personally. It's just frustratingly clunky at times, and not big on that because of it.
All right. This is from The Doors 93. How did playing this game co-op affect your experience?
Again, much like not having electricity when it wasn't a thing, I don't know, because we didn't play it single player.
Well, I enjoyed not having to play a Final Fantasy game alone.
Yeah, it's always nice because most of these are solo experiences, so it's
good to mix it up.
It was fun in that way, yeah. I enjoyed it.
Do you believe playing this game with a total of 4 people co-op would have further enhanced the experience? I do.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun if you had a good group of guys and you had the time.
Yeah, I would do. I think it'd be fun.
Black Mage Justin asks, do you think this series of game needs to be left out to die, considering this is apparently the best one? Should they continue to make these spin-offs? Would Schweiss play it again for Plat on PS4? I bet he would play it again for Plat, because it's an easy game.
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah. Do we think they need to be left out to die? Just based on the fact that this is supposed to be the best one, probably, but we haven't played the other ones, so we don't know.
Yeah, can't judge it.
Can't let public opinion get in the way. I mean, they're probably easier on the first one in a new series, because they're like, oh, hey, keep making more, and then they just get progressively more and more negative.
How did the opening movie stack against other opening Final Fantasy movies? It didn't.
Yeah, I don't think it's...
It wasn't memorable at all.
No, really, yeah. I didn't really have I don't even remember what it was.
Nope.
Right now.
That's exactly what I'm thinking at this moment. It's like, what the hell happened? I don't know. Okay. Let's talk about... let's do our listener reviews, and then we'll talk about the legacy of the game.
All right.
Okay, so we got 2 reviews here. One from Aldwin /Random Dude. Many a nights were spent playing this one back in the day. Me and a friend had the chance to spend a lot spend a lot of time on this back in junior high. Together we would spend weekends grinding through dungeons and having a great time as we would get our asses handed to us, come back and keep going at it. It's the kind of game that lends itself to lots of stories you can tell when you play together with friends, moments of ruin that set you back. I guess we had some of those, Schweiss, or triumphantly overcoming that impossible boss and getting ahead. It all feels very rewarding despite the simplicity of the game. As far as world and lore, I would put this a little behind Evil East proper, but one very fondly loved. I think they introduced some really interesting concepts in the world racked by miasma, on the brink of destruction, the various races and their history in the world, the side quests and characters you encounter that give the world a personal touch, the emphasis on monsters, on how the crystals function, make it all for a memorable universe that I hope Square comes back to someday to further expand upon, especially during the era of Meteor, Parasite, and Rame. Rame is the final boss, by the way.
Yeah.
Which they seem to completely forget about as the series continued. Other than that, it's a very pretty game in general. I really like the look and feel of it, which gives off a very relaxed look, coupled with some of the best music in the series, making for a unique FF in general. So here is an opposite opinion of ours.
One of the best...
So,
The best music? Man, are you sure?
I'm still hoping that we get a proper console sequel someday. The game will always hold a special place for me, and while there are many spin-offs, none of them really managed to recapture what the original did, and while maybe forgotten at Square, will remain one of my favorite FFs of all time.
Well, don't play it again then. Just leave it alone.
Just leave it alone. Keep it there in the memory.
Don't fuck with it.
Don't fuck with it.
The Doors... don't just leave it be. The Doors 93 says, I played this game a ton with friends and family during my middle school days. While I don't have any recollection of story, lore, or music, I do remember the large amount of fun I had playing it. There's just something about co-oping a game with 4 people in the same room that sets this game up for creating a memorable and fun experience. I do hope someday a proper next-gen sequel is released that implements a similar collaborative experience like this game, minus the need for Game Boys and cords needed to play. LOL. I agree.
Okay, well, 2 positive reviews of the memories of playing it back.
Oh, man. Aldwin said he played it a few weeks ago, and he said it was still great.
Oh, Aldwin. Oh, I don't know what to say anymore. I just don't know what to say. You can like a game, man. It's all right. It's okay.
It's one of the best soundtracks,
for me. That's
though.
For me. I got to tell myself it's okay.
It hurts.
I don't know about that soundtrack. But yeah. I mean, it was fun. It was fun overall. Here's our overall opinion, right?
Yeah.
Those are our 2 listeners that sent in reviews. I think it was fun. I'm glad it was a multiplayer game. I don't know if I would love this on single player. I'd probably rip on it even more than I'm doing now. I do think the music is awful. I think the game looks all right. I wouldn't look at this as one of the cream of the crop Final Fantasy games, and I'm surprised that there are so many sequels to it, frankly. But it has been like 14 years since it came out. Maybe it's just one of those unfortunate games that didn't age well.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, who can say? We didn't play it back in the day.
The Game Boy Cord can say. They can immediately say that this is a bad idea.
Waiting for player to connect, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the game's okay. Honestly, near the end of the show, when we make our Uber list of full rankings of where every single game ranks stacked up against the other games, which is going to be a completely arbitrary list because we're not going to remember half of what we've done at that point because it's years.
Recently, I think in January, I listened to every single review we ever had.
Are you serious?
I did.
Oh
and then I was reminded of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to do that again.
I'll probably have to do that too.
Yeah.
Just get the feeling and remember those feelings and oh God. I think this one's going to be down near the bottom of my list. I
don't think it is the bottom though.
No, it's better than Dirge of Cerberus.
Yes.
It's better than Dirge.
And it's better than Kingsglaive the movie.
It is, yeah. I would say this is more fun than Kingsglaive the movie. There are multiple things that are lower than this game, but not much. I don't think it's I don't think it has aged well. I think it was a fun experience, and I'm glad. I am also glad, very glad, that we played it multiplayer rather than to going single player route. I can't imagine that being very much fun.
The thing that sucks is our fucking schedules, though.
Yeah, the schedules make it really hard to play, and that probably adds to some of the frustration we've experienced
that's
playing this game. But honestly, the story isn't memorable. The characters aren't memorable at all because they're just you. The lore I don't care about. I don't feel like I need to go back and play this game ever again. The only reason I might is, like I said before, 4 people.
that PS4 remaster.
Yeah, or a remaster with trophies. Yeah, something
there
like
you go.
that. I just, other than that, I can't.
Reward system for you.
Yeah, I can't see myself ever playing this game again. I think it's honestly a forgettable entry into the series because it feels very different from a lot of the games in the series. It feels like it was made by a shell company that they set up to make a game really quickly for Nintendo. It doesn't feel like it's something that's necessarily worth your time unless you can play it with other people. So that would be my advice. And I feel like the legacy of this game is kind of a forgotten game. No one talks about Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, really.
No one in our circle, no.
Unless you're getting close to playing it, and then suddenly they come out of the woods.
Yeah, then Alduin comes out of the woods.
Yeah, and loves it. But
loves it.
For the most part, I don't really hear much at conventions. I don't see anybody ever like cosplaying. I don't see anything involving...
cosplaying as a Selkie.
No. Unfortunately. But it's like, it's kind of one of those games that happened, and it was a decent hit at the time, and I feel like it's been largely forgotten with time.
I agree with you for the most part. I'm seeing people that played it as a kid. Obviously, it's geared towards that.
Yeah.
And maybe like at least these 2 reviews, I feel like probably gotten other people talking about this. Jake, of course, played it. I think it was one of those games you played in a group as a kid. If you were rich and had the cord and the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube.
If you were a fucking millionaire, and could
if you were,
the tech, quote unquote, required.
None of us here at Geekdom grew up very well off. I mean, I was the most well off, and my dad was in the Army.
And he hates video games, too.
And I wasn't allowed to have video games till I was 15. So just remember, we are getting that context there. But so I would look at like, oh, you have so many things with your GameCube. Like,
yeah,
I look at that and it just doesn't feel right. It's like too much. It's like, no, you got to be a little bit more poor than that.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't have all that stuff. But anyway, you guys who had all that equipment, maybe it is a big, you can see it through rose-colored glasses of having fun. Because I think I would have had more fun as a kid playing this. Because of its simplicity, and it's still kind of fun. But now, having played
all of the others,
a lot of games, and for Nude Clan and for UFF, and having played other Final Fantasy games, knowing what a Final Fantasy is, this game doesn't stack up at all.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I was hoping that it would be another gem that we would sort of uncover, but I don't feel like it is at all.
But we got 5 more of them. Our next one is Ring of Fates.
Yep.
So get excited for that. So excited.
Get excited for the new artwork that's on this episode as well.
Oh, yeah.
Our
so
mid-season is over, finally.
Thank you, Stallus, for supplying us with that. If anybody wants to hire him, he is available. Yeah, Schweiss, do we have obviously we don't have a ranking for this game yet because it's the only one.
It's the best and the worst. Yep.
It's the best.
The best of Crystal Chronicles,
number 1.
The worst of Crystal Chronicles.
Yeah. But anyway, hey, this was fun, Schweiss.
Yeah.
UltimaFinalFantasy.com is where you can find our show. If you want to join the forums and, I don't know, talk about Crystal Chronicles, talk about how we're wrong, I don't care what you do. Just go onto our forums and join the discussion. If you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon page you can use to support us. And we have an Amazon link you can click through if you want to do that. If you want to, check out our other shows. We've obviously mentioned Nude Clan about 3 times during this review. Nude Clan, that's Nudeclan. It's a really funny kind of obnoxious video game shows, 4 dudes in a room that have known each other way too long and thus know each other's weaknesses, and then constantly exploit those things and attack each other and laugh about video games and laugh at each other. It's a good show, and I'm really proud of it. And unfortunately, I'm leaving it, but I'm really proud of it. And it's good, so check it out. You can also check out the Godzilla podcast, and you can check out a game of Schweiss and Johnson.
Song of Schweiss and Johnson.
A song
For
of
a few chickens more, a Song of Schweiss and Johnson, a Game of Thrones podcast.
So look for A Few Chickens More.
It's a lot
that's
easier.
The easiest search thing you could do.
Yeah.
And they do have new episodes of that. So if you like Game of Thrones, the television show, check that out. And we also have a Dragon Quest podcast on the network, Puff Puff Hour.
Yeah.
And anyway, I think that's it. You can tweet me at Joseph Vigolier.
Me at UFF Podcast.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, until then, as always, enjoy the link cable grind.